I can hear some rumblings. I'm assuming that that's somebody's stomach growling. I know we are a bit behind schedule, but we will try to keep it short. But I know that there is a lot of interest in what we want to discuss today. And I've seen that a lot of us have been taking notes and looking at the presentations with a lot of interest. So we thought that we should, title this panel discussion as COBIT, is it a business enabler? Right? We had a lot of questions on, how do we implement it? Does it make any sense? Because I can resonate with what Mr. Ailur or Mr. Rafiq have spoken about. People tell me that we have implemented COBIT in 6 months. Right? So then my heart rate generally climbs up because I know that this is not the COBIT that I know, and probably it takes 6 months to assess and decide on what we do. Right? Just before we go into the actual panel and I hand over the talking to the panelists, I just want to set the tone by talking about a couple of things that we see happening around us today. Right? Put on the mic. Okay. The largest valued enterprises today don't own any assets. I'm talking of people like Uber or people like Airbnb. They technically don't own any assets, right? So they have more valuation than some of the traditional companies that are around today. Second is there is a regulatory lag that is affecting a lot of the new businesses, right? You go and do something, you think it is disruptive, you think it is innovative, and then the law comes back and tells you that what you're doing is wrong, right? They come and tell you that you don't have a license to do this, you can't do that, you are in violation of some EU act somewhere, things like that. Next is there is a rise in things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, IEG, right? Chatbots, for example. Probably the next time you're ordering a pizza, you're going to be talking to a machine that is actually chatting to you. Or you have a FAQ on some site, you have a pop-up there that's actually an artificial intelligence machine that's actually giving you the answers that you're looking for, right? Cyber security and cyber threats are rising. No enterprise is free of this, so this is something that we have to consider. IT is the business and business is IT. Again, a lot of the sessions they talked about this, right? Today that line between what is IT and what is business is not there. In fact, Mr. Ailur talked about something called enterprise IT. That is an interesting concept, right? Today, I'm in my professional work, I deal with organizations where they really don't have an IT department at all. They are only using services from AWS or Google Cloud or whatever it is, and the business user himself or herself is able to configure and do whatever they want to do, right? So that's something out there. And then finally, disruption is a norm. Be it business or be it governance, we cannot think linearly anymore, right? I mean, geometric thinking is the order of the day. With that, I just like to hand over to the panel for their thoughts on the topic and on how they look at this, and then we can take it.
Hello, good evening to all of you. The first point you said was about the no assets. Frankly, let me tell you one thing, as a chartered accountant, I still haven't figured out how the valuations are done. Every single company is a lost company, Flipkart, Snapdeal, everything other than Alibaba. Right? So I don't know. It's not what I learned in my CA for sure. Having assets or no assets has nothing to do with valuation. There are many other things that have come up. Now, some of the other points that you mentioned, which I would like to take it further, is that you had mentioned about artificial intelligence, and because I'm quite involved in this area, I strongly believe that this is going to be the future. Cognitive analysis is going to be the future and prediction. And if any of you have used Watson Analytics, you will be able to understand how powerful that can be. And today you can go to Watson Analytics and give a hashtag of any tweet, and it'll give you back the results, where it came from, what it was, what was the response, what not, in a few seconds. So it is actually the social engineering is also going to play a very, very major role in terms of identifying how businesses are going to move. Like today they go through your Facebook account before they recruit you in the HR. Similarly, when they want to know about markets, products that are going to do, they're going to do analytics on hashtags. I believe strongly that this is going to be the future in terms of, because you brought it up, and I'm glad you brought it up, because cognitive sciences is really going to take over. Then another thing which you mentioned was on viruses and I think that also is serious because I don't know how many of you must have read about this Stuxnet worm, where today even countries are using, technology for bringing down nuclear facilities in Iran. So, this is a different type of war, and the threats are very, very heavy. If a country across the oceans can bring down a nuclear reactor and make the cylinders spin at a very rapid speed, we really got a problem. They can tomorrow control, your water systems, your power, and for any of you who want to see this from a fiction side of it, or more like a documentary, there is a documentary out there called 0 Days. Please have a look at it, and then you'll realize the seriousness of what I'm talking about. I'll just pass to the others also.
Thank you. So, I come from Philips actually. So, I worked as operations head there. So, actually, I see a lot of relevance of COBIT now in the changing days. So, what I mean by changing days is basically if you see the IT, the way in which business sees IT is totally different. I think if you just want to give a simple example, I think Idol was talking about incident management kind of a thing. If you see in the IT organizations, the users, when they have an issue, typically it goes for various support levels, which is called L0, L1, L2, L3, L4, which is a product supplier kind of a thing. Today, the business doesn't want to listen anything. They have, in fact, I think earlier, I am in the IT support operations for the last 15 years. We can go back to explain to business, say that, hey, I'm level 2, I was trying to solve this, it's a product problem we are solving. Today, business doesn't want that. And also, when we just want to talk about your process KPI, nobody wants a system KPI today. I think most of you know, right? System performance, system availability, incidents KPI, nobody interested. They want to know what is exactly the business KPI is supported by IT. Rather, how exactly IT is helping to achieve the business KPIs. That is what the requirement from the business now. And also, if you see the compliance standpoint, I think, in fact, we say example like Philips, the various controls. I think one of the panel discussions was like every day there is an auditor in a function. It's really true. In fact, I face auditors every day in my function. Okay, what they are asking and what is exactly the controls what we implemented. Every day they come with a new control, and they say this, what is missing. Okay. So if you see the changing needs is totally mind-boggling for the IT now. And also currently we are engaged in a new initiative where we will be using something like IBM Watson, which is working with one of the IT company here. This product called Homes. Let me also tell you, it's a Wipro product, so it's Homes. Actually, what we are trying to achieve is no-touch IT operations. Okay, what it means is lot of controls, whatever we established so far, it will be removed. So we need to really establish a new controls everywhere. How exactly we do it? Today we are thinking of it, and we are just working on while parallelly we are running that actually. Okay, so it means that the robots, bots developed by these teams will be automatically or it will be actively interacting with users. It will solve the problem for them. And we do automatic monitoring, business process monitoring, say, and those things will be without users impacted. Automatically we have self-healing tools which will identify problem, solve the problem. So we say that the business should not see any IT issue at all. That is the expectation currently. Okay, so that's it brings to importance of COBIT. what kind of controls and proactiveness we need to have. How do we need to see that each one of them need to be lined up or completely thought through with the stakeholder needs and need to meet. So it's highly relevant. I see that it's going to be the rule.
I will take you to a couple of scenarios. Something like a Bangalore-based organization engaged me for helping them in implementing ISMS. So I went and met the CEO. I asked typical consultant set of questions. One is that, how many data centers do you have? Then, where are your data centers? What kind of platforms that you use? And what kind of network you use? I asked about 10 questions. None of the questions he answered. He was staring at me. Then I asked, didn't you understand what I'm asking you? Why are you not answering any of my questions? Then he said, no, I don't understand. No, I'm asking you in very simple English language. What is it you don't understand in this? He said, we don't have any data center, we don't have any platform, we don't have any network. For everything, he said, we don't have. Okay, then you are developing something for which you have the IPR. Then how are you developing and how are you ensuring that it is protected? Everything that we do is in Amazon, AWS. That is already being used. We do not know what kind of platforms they do have, what kind of system they do have, what kind of network they do have. And how can I answer your questions? Second scenario. Say, for example, the bag manufacturer, Wildcraft, they are conducting a survey, a roadshow, and to understand the customer feedback, or take the feedback and understand what kind of products in future they may want to have. So for which they may not typically depend on their IT to provide with all the systems required. What they can do is they may probably hire a local kiosk from a local vendor and have their survey running in surveymonkey.com. Yeah? So they integrate these to creating a hybrid cloud and run their questionnaire, finally they do have their data with them. Now, what is the importance of this data? This is likely to be very loosely handled, right? Now imagine if this data is going to the competitor, what will happen to them? So the competitor will come up with a better product than these people, which is required by the mass in the market, right? So now, how we can manage, govern all these kinds of information that are generated, right? See, the information with Amazon. So I asked a couple of organizations which use Amazon services. What is your SLA? What is the resolution time that they give you? The answer given to me was that they don't give us any resolution time. Rather, they give only response time. Today, who is interested in response time? I'm interested as a customer only in resolution time. I call a parent and say that my broadband is not working. They say that you will get a call in 10 minutes time. Somebody calls me and tells me your issue will be fixed in 4 days time. Then I immediately get wild. That is not the reason why I'm paying you. I need to get my issue resolved in another next 1 hour. Not more than that. I don't mean to say that Airtel has done it, but here what is important is that the resolution time. Today we are not concerned about response time. So when the information is there with Amazon or for that matter any other cloud service provider, what is the kind of service levels you get in terms of security, service, everything? Something we need to really look at. So here is where COBIT kind of framework for COBIT per se is highly useful. I'll give you one more thing, one more example. Airtel has outsourced many of their IT activities, most of their IT activities to companies like IBM or Tech Mahindra or whatever. Right? Now, how do they ensure that all these outsourced organizations are dealing with their information in a proper manner? Here is where Airtel as an organization will need COBIT 5 framework to govern the information.
I'll take this question, one question which is pertaining to IT as an enabler. Just take the example of Shopper Stop. If your Shopper Stop had so many, malls, they have these businesses. Now you find many of the Shopper Stop this one are closing down. Now what happened is, let's say you have Amazon, Flipkart or any other this entity, you are shopping on them. Many of them now you are shopping. If you look at this, what has happened is this information, you have to go to a particular place and then buy the particular commodity after doing some research. Now you can do this online. So what happened is this information which is available physically, which is available to you through physical access, now it becomes digitized. What Amazon, Flipkart, anything what they are doing is they digitize the inventory and made it available. This information is available to you and this information is facilitated through an information system. The type of information system an organization has is the differentiator. For example, why Amazon has got better quality compared to Flipkart or this one is based on the type of information system they have. This information system is facilitated by the underlying processes they have. by the organizational structure they have, the policies, frameworks, and principles they have. These are called as the enablers. Now, if you use this one framework like COBIT, with the framework of frameworks, what will happen is it will help you to implement the right type of controls. For example, the mission of enterprises was to provide products, deliver products or services. The mission will always continue. Now the only thing is the methods, means and mechanisms through which these products and services are delivered are now more electronically. So when the data becomes more digital, it becomes much more critical for you to understand the information architecture, know where the information is getting generated, where the information flows, and how the right controls have to be brought in so that you can ensure that the information is available to only the right users. And that's why when you use the holistic approach of framework which is there in controls, it helps you in implementing better types of controls.
Right. Thank you. Listening to all the four of you talk, one of the things that I can see coming out is that businesses are today focusing on the outcomes. Right? Mr. Aylur spoke about it, saying that business doesn't have visibility into the IT, they probably don't want to know what's going on into the nitty-gritties. Mr. Babu spoke about people getting into the AI, people looking at bots being used. The same thing is what Mr. Mahendran was talking about, also saying bots will be used to bring about this touchless IT and things like that. Now, what I'm hearing here is that all these things will need a significant change in how organizations are operating. And when you try to throw COBIT into that mix, it's going to make things very, very interesting. So how do you see that change management needs to be done? What do you think organizations should do to manage this very painful change? Yeah.
See, change management, as you know, is one of the most difficult things. But sometimes when regulations come in, you get what is a forced change. And that's what's happening in India for sure now, especially after the Companies Act and this IFC. Because with this internal financial controls being pushed down as a law, all auditors have to, and including the corporates, have to be very, very concerned, because most of the controls are automated. Those days of manual controls and all are gone. So irrespective of whether it's a preventive or a detective control, all of them are automated. So unless and until you know exactly how the control works within the system, it is very, very difficult for the board of directors to pass an opinion on the effectiveness and adequacy of the control as required by section 134 and 143. And it is very, very difficult for an external auditor also to pass an opinion. Under these circumstances, actually people like information systems auditors have a major role to play because they know exactly how the controls work, and they will be in a position to pass an opinion on the effectiveness and adequacy of a control. So I think the only way that these things can come is if you force it down the throat. As you know, I consult in the area of SAP. So when Sarbanes-Oxley Act came out in 2002 in the US, the AS5 at that time, the Auditing Standard 5, specifically mentioned that conflict in SOD violations is a significant deficiency and has to be reported by auditors. That forced everyone across the world to go and put an SOD tool in an SAP environment. Okay? It was not because they wanted it. Today you go to the Middle East and you try to talk to them about an SOD tool, they will say that we'd rather use that money for getting more sales, because there is no law there. There is no law which tells you that you have to have someone, the board of directors have to certify for the adequacy and effectiveness of controls. So the rest of the world did it, and that's how it got in. Now it's come to India. Okay, because of the 31st of March 2016 financial statements, it started. So the heat has just started. But I can guarantee to you, by the next year, year ending, this change management will slowly become much, much easier. And if you go and talk to people about COBIT, or the importance of having continuous control monitoring, from a GRC perspective, I think people will listen to you. And I think going forward, at least in India for sure, it will work.
Right.
I have a couple of points to be added in an operational perspective. Actually, if we see in the IT usage, actually currently you see most changes, controls are very siloed. Actually, even if you say in operation there is a changes and have a controlling. I'm just talking more of operational level, huh? And then we just have the enablers, which is basically a development, new product development, new functionalities, bringing into business, supporting the business growth as a different control. Then you talk about infrastructure, so that has a separate control. So, and also like the FDA and SOX, these things are bringing the next level of control. So if we just see that at operational level, it's a real struggle to have multiple changes which will be enabling business to use the tools. So primarily we will be using, or we need to use a framework or I can say that parachute type control, what a COBIT can bring to see that to create a comprehensive and global change control in the IT organization. So I think that's really must. I think many organizations are also towards that. In fact, many multinational companies today removing the system level and also like the IT functional level controls, bringing global change controls. So those things will definitely will be more predominant going forward, and for that COBIT kind of framework will be definitely improved.
Continuing the answer to Raghu's point, how COBIT can be used? The point is that at the enterprise level or whatever level you may want to achieve your objectives, you need to be very clearly defining those objectives. Whether that be for HIPAA or SOX or any other, those objectives have to be very clearly defined. Again, COBIT gives you some guidance on that. Second is that wherever possible, you need to make use of technology. Leverage of technology is one another guidance that is provided by COBIT. So, for example, mine was bringing up a scenario where in the operational environment, not many changes have to be implemented. It is where now today we are using DevOps kind of concepts. So even though DevOps has got its own issues like SOD issues, right? Still we should be able to manage using highest level of automation. So that is one of the solution that we may have. At the same time, the level of control required even when we use DevOps must be in place, for which we can take the support of our guidance from COBIT 5 framework.
When COBIT was developed, I told you the first thing which was developed the architecture document in terms of the principles. We had two committees. One is the COBIT 5 task force, the Prema committee, about 12 to 15 members each. We have about 30 people sitting together and we debate and discuss for 3 days from morning 9 o'clock to 5 p.m. So it means about 8 in 3, 24 hours, about 15 people. At the end of this, what we got is a 16-page document which gives the overall structure of how COBIT is going to be structured. After that, the development was started where we looked at each of the processes, the template prepared in terms of how what is going to structure in the information is presented. For example, you take a particular process, each of the process will present information in the same way. And incidentally, we had what is called as COBIT development workshop, where each of the COBIT task force member was given responsibility for team. And one of the team I was responsible for was this manage changes. When COBIT was designed, we also got the content from ISACA, but from all the knowledge repositories. For each of the processes, what are the content which is available? And not only that, we had a group of 3 experts for each of this, 3 to 5 members. And I was leading one group which is also dealing with manage changes. So what we did was, we actually looked at all the knowledge repositories which are pertaining to this particular process. We also had various other frameworks. Probably there are more than 50 frameworks which are referenced for preparing COBIT. This one, for a particular process, for each of the processes. Based on this particular document was prepared. Now let's take specific thing pertaining to manage changes. For example, let us say you're going to take the same example of shopper stock. Now, what are the key things? One is the pricing of commodity. Now, when the goods come in, there is a particular price at which the goods are purchased. Similarly, the goods are there is a selling price for which there is a particular what do you call that? Barcode. Barcode based on which the price is fixed. Okay. So you have the automated controls and you also have the barcode. Somebody within the organization has to decide what the price at which you have to purchase, what is the vendor whom you have to buy, what is the quantity, everything, what is the purchase comes. Similarly, when the sale is being made, this particular information is captured in the information system. Now, a few months back, I had to do audit of an e-commerce organization. So let's say, I will not give the name of the organization. Now, the same thing, they have what is called the category manager for each of type of the product. Now, this category manager is responsible for a set of particular products, and he is deciding what is the purchase price at which this particular commodity is going to buy bought. Now, look at the selling price. The selling price is dynamically fixed. Now, if you go to Amazon and then you, let's say 10 times you have got a hit to the particular page. For example, you wanted to buy a air conditioner. 10 times you have gone there and you have not bought. If the customer, they also monitor the number of hits. Based on that, they know. If 10 hits are coming and not even one has bought, they have some statistics. Out of 10 hits, 2 hits means then that customer will buy. If you find that out of 10 you have not got any hits, then they decide the price is high. Then the category manager will escalate and then you talk to the purchaser and then reduce the price dynamically. Now, if you look at this particular managing of this particular price and the purchase and sale, all this is managed by the category manager, and there has to be control for him. There has to be mechanism saying that, okay, this is the boundary within which he can operate. This is how this particular purchase is made. Similarly, this information is available on the internet to anybody else. I want to buy a particular product, I know the prices, I can also buy the prices. Now, if somebody makes a mistake and then he modifies the price, then the company gets into big loss. So in that case, you need to have mechanisms through which you are able to put this particular pricing mechanism, the segregation duties, what they can do, within what range you can do, all this control gets automated. That's where the COBIT structure at a macro level tells you, if you're doing change management, what is that you need to have, what are the structure you need to build, what policies you need to have, what process you need to have, what are the information it has to be made available, how it has to be monitored, all these things can come. And that's where I said COBIT, I would say COBIT is also futuristic. Whether you have e-commerce, tomorrow you have Internet of Things, whatever may be the technology you come in, you find the framework which can be used.
Great. Now, this is an interesting perspective that both Mr. Rafiq and some of the others have brought up, that we need to look at it from an overarching framework and we need to look at something that is able to handle changes as they come along, right? Which kind of brings me to my question on, what kind of tools can we see coming up in the future of COBIT? Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to do 3 things with COBIT, right? One is we want to boost further adoption, because today organizations are having their own limitations, they have their own ways of approaching it. That is one thing we need to do. Second is we need to do 2 things simultaneously. One is we need to ease implementation and we need to enhance effectiveness. Because both need to go hand in hand so that people at the end of the day are able to say that I've done something really. Because when we had this conversation earlier also, and it was also touched upon in the sessions, that people come and say that we did a COBIT assessment in 2 days. I cannot even comprehend that you're able to go into an organization, whatever size it is, and be able to do an assessment on COBIT in 2 days and say you're COBIT certified or assessed or whatever it is, right? So I just want to throw this to the entire panel. What kind of tools do you see coming up? Where should this go? How can it be more implementable?
I'll take this first. If you look at the blog which has been written by Peter Thiessen, who is a person in charge of COBIT now, recently he has written a blog. He also says that ISACA is actually working on developing various types of tools. For example, there is a documentation on how to use COBIT for cloud computing environment. So if you're looking at cloud computing environment, the adoption of COBIT for cloud computing environment is already available. In the near future, there could be a separate documentation publication on how to use cloud COBIT for, let's say, Internet of Things. There was earlier a publication on how to use COBIT for, let's say, mobile computing. So as the technology evolves, the same principles are applied to that particular environment. Based on that, we have different types of tools and templates. Now, as specific software as such, I think as of now, COBIT has actually provided online, COBIT Online, where it gives you a goals cascade where you can decide the goals based on the goals, enterprise goals, you can decide the IT goals. Based on that, you can select the process. So to that extent, it actually facilitates in deciding, okay, if my goal is so and so. For example, let's say Amazon says that I want to achieve market share of 20%. For that, achieve market share of 20%, what is that they need to do in terms of IT? What process they have to improve? They can decide that, and for that, how they have to roll out. All these things can be worked out. So that's where I think the future is going, where we'll have more and more tools which will be available. But one important thing we need to remember, that there are no tools which can replace human skill. Whatever should be automated will get automated. Okay? But the key difference is the human beings who have got the knowledge, the interpretation skills will always remain relevant. So whatever we do in COBIT, you still need people with that domain expertise and the function knowledge to interpret, adopt and implement as required.
Yeah. See, Webu is asking about some technological tools or generic tools. Yes.
We implement the tool in the widest possible sense.
Okay. If it is in terms of some guidance tools like COBIT 5 for different areas, vendor management, configuration management, incident management, problem management, all of them can come up. But when it comes to technological tools, in order to implement COBIT 5 end-to-end, it is not possible to. Because the environments existing in different organizations or enterprises are totally different from one another. And also, as I mentioned earlier, COBIT 5 is not something that can be implemented. It gives you a set of guidance. Using that guidance, you may want to strengthen certain enablers, maybe the policies, processes, yeah, whatever, in information. For those specific areas, you can use multiple different kinds of tools. I mentioned about the DevOps tools. DevOps is possible today only because of tools. Or without tools, DevOps is not possible. Right? Similarly, addressing specific areas, you can use tools. Else, in order to implement COBIT for end-to-end tools, usage is not possible because the environments are different. The specific requirements of organizations are different. In that sense, it is not possible. Guidance tools, yes, possible. ISAC is consistently working on such tools, and we will have more and more tools coming up in the coming future.
I think this topic is more relevant to both of you. Okay. At least as a user of COBIT, okay, or how it can be used for an organization like COBIT, at least I feel that some places we require tools. Like example, we spoke about DevOps also. So we are just trying to bring in the DevOps, the operational organization and the delivery organization together. So generally, why DevOps? Primarily, we have an operational organization sitting in one side and delivery organization sits in one side. Once delivery organization develops something, when it comes to operational organization asks all the questions which the delivery organization cannot answer, and that will delay. So they may not be in a position to implement that change what is required for the production. So those are all the areas. Definitely, tools are required. What tools are coming? Definitely, this area we need to get tools, and definitely the change management is another area. So there we will be definitely need to get tools. And the other important thing is in the compliance and cyber security area. So there, that's like a wild forest. So wherever you just go, if an auditor comes, he will be in a position to fish something. Okay. So in that area, there is some tools. Maybe I think Rafiq Kanal is involved extensively with the COBIT itself. So those are all things will be definitely useful for users of COBIT, like multinational industries like us, where each country gives a challenge. Right? Each country gives a challenge, each function gives a challenge. So to address all the things comprehensively, definitely the tools. Definitely frameworks can be used, but tools will be more useful.
I'm just thinking, why? And hopefully, there are a lot of youngsters here who can do a startup or something on this. I think in terms of tools, you're absolutely right, it's required. It certainly requires. If somebody can either create it on the cloud or somewhere and have APIs for different environments, one for the different OSs, one for the different DB databases, and for the networks, and because all of them have got today, SIEM technology and all are very much there in every place. So if you can access those logs and pull all this data, and if I can configure that tool in such a way where I can just say that I'm running on Windows Server 2012, I'm running an Oracle, database. This is it's 12C, and I give this thing. I should have the right APIs to go to the logs and pull those logs out. Today it's being done by Oracle DB is writing scripts for you to find out who has accessed this and who has accessed the sysadmin password and etc. like that. We can automate it. And I think we here in India, we have the talent, we have the knowledge, we have the brilliant techies who can help us do this thing, and if someone can do this thing, and get it out in the market, I think you've really got the world out there.
Sure.
See, talking about tools, I thought I'd give one more perspective. If you look at most of the high-end ERP, whether it's SAP or Oracle Financials or this Microsoft Navision or anything for that matter, they have a GRC tool. And you find most of the COBIT content, the management practices, activities, everything is actually integrated as part of the and offered as a GRC offering and part of the GRC offering. Which means you want to use COBIT concepts, there is already a GRC tool which is in SAP, using which you can configure as per your requirements. There are also external vendors who provide this information about COBIT. I will not give the name of the specific companies, but there are companies who specialize in providing an automated approach for implementing any framework. For example, let's say COBIT gives you two key things. One, it gives you a knowledge repository of best practices. Second, it gives a structured way, this information presented in a structured way, and it also gives you an approach. So there are companies who actually provide this information. COBIT is already available, but it requires somebody within the organization to understand, customize this particular thing, and then based on that they can implement it. That is possible. So regardless of how the frameworks go, you still need people to interpret, adopt it as required for the organization. And that's where your understanding of COBIT will make you a key differentiator. And that's where you can add value and remain relevant.
Right. Thank you. I just want to add to one point that Mr. Ojanen spoke about. Mr. Jeff Bezos, who we all know, right? Of Amazon, is very famously quoted as saying that if you develop anything within Amazon, you must make sure that there's an API for it and that has interface to any new technology or any existing technology anywhere. Because he wants to make sure that that's the only way to adapt and make sure that there's that growth that we are expecting in whatever they're doing, right? Okay, now we've kind of come to the end of the time that we had in mind. So we've been a great audience. So I just want to throw open the session to Q&A. I request that you please state your name clearly so that in case you are the lucky winner for the gift that we have, we can make sure that you get it. Please, I throw it over to you.
I am Sebastian, it is to the panelists. So one of the things that while we were discussing about the change management, what you told about was the role of government or regulatory agencies in pushing down certain things which maybe companies are not willing to accept. So in COBIT, is there any such things which mainly from the ethics part to see that whatever procedures or things are coming up is ethically compliant or is something in the COBIT 5 something?
I get your question. Are you saying that the regulations are changing based on that?
Like he told an example of some of the act,
yeah.
some of the like companies act was
yeah.
So it was mainly the companies act wanted to have something more on ethical component was brought.
Yeah.
So in COBIT 5, is there anything automatically taking up that particular component or not that particular?
Now you look at the 7 enablers.
Right.
Okay, one of the top enablers is the culture, ethics, and behavior. So the tone at the top has to be driven, because finally it's the people who make a difference, and that is driven by the people at the top. So one of the important questions which is looked at as an enabler is what is the organization culture, ethics, and behavior.
Is there any in the 36 procedures?
No, that's what I'm saying. Okay, let me give you the practical example. We are doing audit of Infosys clinical software, and one of the things we did for the purpose of mapping is we looked at for the banking purposes what are the business process controls which are required. And second, from the regulatory perspective, let's say RBI, Banking Regulation Act, and so many other things, what are the controls which are required? So when you're doing the audit and we said, as per this particular Regulation Act, you have not implemented this, the software doesn't facilitate this. Now the project management team for Infosys came and said, no, where does COBIT say that you need to have this? Okay. Then we have to mention in there is a particular process for ensure compliance requirement. So when I'm implementing a COBIT for that organization, I use this term ensure compliance requirement. Pick up all the regulatory requirements which are there, interpret, tell them this how this has to be done.
No, my doubt was this. Like if there is no such law at all,
yeah.
Is COBIT 5 taking care of ethics?
No.
That's what I want.
No, COBIT will give you a generic principle that you need to have a tone at the top and there has to be basic things. So the best thing would be if you can read this particular process, you'll get an idea what is covered in the COBIT part.
If you're telling about the things in, say, Gulf countries where
yeah.
there is no law at all.
Yeah.
So in such place where you have to implement COBIT 5, is there any ethical component that I said COBIT 5 can put down?
COBIT doesn't deal with this one ethics. It says does the management have an ethics and is it followed throughout within the company and the ethics complies with the regulatory regime of the particular country. I was attending one corporate governance seminar and I'll give you the name of the two guys who are at the stage and then you can understand what they're talking about corporate governance. One guy was the CFO of Wipro. The second guy was the CFO of United Breweries. Now the CFO of United, this one Wipro was talking about corporate governance, we do this, and so many other things. And if a person is found this one committing a fraud, even 100 rupees will sack him, and this is the torrent of all those things. Now the turn of the CFO of United Breweries came in. And he also said, we also implement corporate governance. But says, see, the way our business operates completely different. So we interpret the same corporate governance principle based on our own policies and principles to ensure compliance with law. But we want to achieve the business objectives. So each one adopt this one objectives as required. Okay, so what is important is you need to decide what is does the organization have such the objectives, based on that are you following within that particular framework of rules.
Yeah, I will add to this. See, if you look at many organizations, I talked about internal policies of the organization, if you recall. Right? That is the philosophy of the organization. Now, recently one organization announced that they are going to give all their female employees a menstrual leave. You have noticed it? Yeah. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Many organizations, many people appreciate it and they wanted to follow. Right? So what that basically sets? It sets a culture in the organization, or they are talking about revealing their philosophies. So this is what we believe in. So that is creating the environment in the organization, culture in the organization. Once I happened to have a person who has worked very closely with Ramaraju. I asked how he was. I simply asked based on the certain incident. He said Ramaraju is a fantastic person. Then I asked, he is a fantastic person, I believe all this. So how this happened? He was wondering, I didn't know, I worked very closely with him. But I was unable to understand how or why all these things happened. Right? So sometime ago I was in the US and I was in a cab from airport going to my hotel. So then there was a person, the driver, he suddenly started talking to me. He asked, you are from which country? I said, I'm from India. Then he said, you know, one day I had a very special, a privileged passenger in my cab. I asked, who was that? Then he said, I had a person called Azim Premji from your country. Now I worked for Wipro later, many years later. Then I realized walking the talk is that. He does not have a need to hire a cab from the airport and travel to his hotel room. Yeah, but he did that. So one other thing, previously prior to joining Wipro, I used to travel in business class. When I joined Wipro, when I raised my first travel request, I put business class. So my manager told me, why business class? We don't have a practice of people traveling in business class. Even Ajay Premji doesn't travel in business class. So all these are philosophies of the organization, right? All these will create a culture in the organization. That is what COBIT 5 talks about as one of the enablers. And it doesn't say that your philosophy should be like this. It is up to the organization, right? Another example I can give you is some organizations believe that they should not issue Sodexo coupons. Sodexo coupons are today used as something to evade tax. I think some people think that way, even though there is something else behind that. Some organizations feel that we will not allow any employee to evade tax by issuing Sodexo coupons. I'm putting it in a very rough manner. So they say that anything that we pay to our employees must be taxed. A percentage of that should be going to the government. So this is the philosophy of the organization. There is nothing like right and wrong. Whatever they feel appropriate for their environment to achieve their objectives, they achieve.
Just to...
No, I think...
We'll take the next question.
Good evening, my name is Abhijit. So I had a question for Mr. Rafiq because you are part of the task force. So in March this year, ISACA bought CMI, and in 2012, for COBIT, from CMM model we have moved to 14404. So now ISACA is owning CMI, which is like a competing framework for 15504. So in future, do you see a change of the maturity from 15004 to CMI? So that is one. The second part is, if you are doing a class 1 audit for COBIT, is there a ISACA branded certificate for an organization?
Okay, so now let me just clarify that I am a past member of the COBIT 5 task force. So COBIT 5 was a particular project from 2009 to 2011. The project achieved its objectives, and then now I am only a past member. So I do not know the current status of what is happening. But in general, I can say that ISACA pursues and acquires different organizations based on their own business strategies, and based on that, they decided to acquire CMI. How that's going to be rolled out, I think recently there was a webinar, and how COBIT and CMI is going to be there. Probably you can have a look at that. Now regarding the class audit, this one. What is the strategy? Probably Raghu will have some insight because he is the vice president and he sits at the board level of ISACA. He'll be able to share some insights. But as far as the audit is concerned, whether they take the strategy of CMMI or 15504, what they are currently outlined is that this independent, this one will be maintained. But there is a knowledge repositories available which they will use as required later on. And maybe you will find some of the ISO, this one or the CM level like details into COBIT in the near future. Okay. The 15504 is a different thing, is more from the governance perspective which is there.
And the class 1, do you get ISACA brand?
Currently there is a certification, I think, I don't know the right person to answer.
Okay, first question on the 15504 approach. See, ISACA wanted to adopt 15504 approach because COBIT 5 kind of a framework which is covering the entire enterprise end-to-end, whereas CMMI covers only one process area, that is product development. Right? And hence, ISACA felt 15504 approach is the most important and most appropriate. Right? And hence it is unlikely that they will change the assessment methodology, go back to CMMI. Then the very purpose of changing this is defeated and there is no sense in that. Right? Answering your second question, class 1 assessment, if an organization is going for a class 1 assessment, the organization will not get an ISACA branded certificate. Rather, the assessor can issue a certificate on their own name. Or when I say assessor, a certified assessor. Certified assessor is an ISACA certified assessor. Yeah? So they can issue in their own name as a certified assessor a certificate. Yeah? That is only for, not for the organization. Again, you need to understand there is no concept of maturity in COBIT 5. There is only a concept of capability of processes in COBIT 5. And in whatever process the assessor has assessed, that those processes will be mentioned and at what level each process is performing. That's it. There is no consolidated one single figure given.
Which is actually an interpretation of the CMMI model from a capability perspective.
From a capability perspective.
Any more questions before we...
Just one.
Yes. Okay.
During the experience at Mr. Abid,
Sir, your name is...
experience, my name is Jagdish, I am from Capione.
Yeah.
So during the experience in the COBIT projects,
yeah,
you have supported many clients. Do you feel that during the implementation or during fine-tuning IT projects based on COBIT, was there any reverse kind of engineering where you had to also improve the business processes? Did you find any kind of...
See, COBIT doesn't give you, this will get into the nitty-gritties of the business process. In fact, when we developed COBIT itself, COBIT 5, one of the questions was, should we develop COBIT 5 for banking, COBIT 5 for this one, like that, there are different ideas. We decided we will not get into that particular specific domain part, we are going to focus at a macro level. COBIT 5, the way it has been this one designed now, can be used across any type of an organization. Whether it's a commercial organization, whether it's a non-commercial organization, and whatever is the type of business or income industry, etc. So it doesn't really matter. So what we do is we take the generic framework of COBIT at a macro level, understand the business processes, and then we also understand the OpEx structure, understand the technology requirement, understand the compliance requirement for that. Based on that, we map how COBIT has to be customized based on the scope of the alignment which has been designed.
So it really touches the business process also?
Yeah. Business process not in terms of specific things, in terms of at a macro level. For example, there are specific process pertaining to business process controls which have been added in COBIT 5.
We'll just take the last two questions. I think one was from Lopa and the other gentleman there. So one of you can go.
Good morning. Sorry. I'm Lopa from GTIS. My question is, currently we are talking about the enterprise level IT, enterprise level security governance, and COBIT is one of the models which allow us to look at that overall. Same way, when we are talking about the security architecture, which is going to focus as enterprise level, to most of the people use the TOGAF to develop those kind of architecture, but SAPSA is more focused architecture for that, and COBIT were more focused on the IT. So is there a readily available document for mapping those controls requirements between these two?
Okay. As far as the mapping document is concerned, if you see in COBIT 4.1, there are definite documents for COBIT mapping with IT, COBIT with ISO, like that, there are different mapping documents. In COBIT 5, it was decided we are not going to continue with this particular mapping process because the mapping, each one keeps on changing. For example, when we were making COBIT 5, ITIL was in version 2. Just when we were releasing COBIT 5, ITIL 3 came in. So once again, a project, this one team was put in to study what are the changes in ITIL 3 and then incorporate that in COBIT 5 so that COBIT has the latest to this one. So as of now, I think there is no mapping document as such. But at a generic level, at a macro level, what is the mapping between different frameworks is provided. Not at basic level, which was there earlier. In fact, the idea is later on, in fact, when the initial idea was that we will use the expertise of the people to be able to provide this type of mapping document online. But that project is not taken up at all. No. But that was the idea. That we make it available rather than giving it to a few people who develop the mapping. We'll have people do the mapping for each of this framework based on their expertise. And it will be a public document available to everybody.
Yeah, the other part of your question I would like to answer. See, you talked about the architecture and information. You said TOGAF and COBIT. See, when you look at the enterprise architecture, it has got two parts. One is the management architecture, the other one is the technology architecture. Management architecture typically covers the organization structure, the process architecture, information architecture, etc. Whereas the technology architecture covers the interrelationship between different infrastructure components and applications. Right? Now, when you have the information architecture typically takes care of the organization structure and the information requirements of different levels in the organization, which is actually being enabled by the technology architecture. And hence, you cannot really differentiate in today's context. Right? This is for IT and this is for the rest. No. COBIT file as well as TOGAF, they take care of both elements, business elements as well as the technology elements when it comes to architecture.
We'll take one last question from you.
My name is Govind, I'm from Wipro, and in a future perspective, is COBIT is more towards governance, or how it is going to be evolved? Like it is going to be as Madan told, it's going to provide some tool or something to help to evaluate something based on the management inputs from ITAL and other frameworks which can be mapped. Or it will be evaluated as like in a standard, more of like a governance to support governance.
See, as of now it is management and governance framework. It will continue to be like that. So that is what we see COBIT as. Right? So in the future, there may be tool enablements happening. Right? The tools can be from ISACA in terms of supporting documentation, and technological tools can be from any other provider, possible. Right? But it will continue to be a governance and management framework for the enterprise.
Yeah. If you look at COBIT 5, there is a separate governance domain which is added, and there are 5 processes pertaining to governance. And these were mapped based on ISO 15504 and various other government and various other regulatory requirements. So the objective was, in the future, governance and management is going to be the one which is going to be there. And as the processes evolve, let's say COBIT 6 comes in or COBIT 7 comes in, depending on the need, at that particular time they will assess the business process, business environment, technology environment, document structure, various other regulatory requirements, frameworks which are coming. Based on that, they'll decide how best this can be brought in. If you look at COBIT 5, it's actually a container which is distilled from various places. For example, today morning I was taking honey. I was just thinking about this one. I just took a spoon of honey, but just imagine the bees, how many bees have worked for it, how many flowers have they taken. What COBIT 5 provides you is the honey from different frameworks provided in a structured way. Okay, as things evolve, they will continue to evolve.
I think we have somebody here who wanted to ask one last question, so please.
Sir, I am a practicing chartered accountant named Saket Agarwal. Just started the practice. Few of my friends are also attending your DISA course. So I basically wanted to understand where should we start to read, and in our practice, which are the frameworks, basic frameworks that we should start reading and implementing in our day-to-day practice as chartered accountants.
Okay, I think, how many of you are chartered accountants? Oh, okay. So this I think probably I thought I'll answer you when I meet next week for the DISA course. Okay, because it will take a long answer. What I suggest you do is simple. I think probably Raghu can organize a one-day workshop on COBIT. The best thing would be COBIT is also given in this one DISA course material. So the best thing is get started with COBIT, and then depending on the need, you can also expand other frameworks.
Few frameworks if you could name, sir.
Okay, so if you look at, see, it all depends on what is the area you want to get in. There are so many frameworks. Each framework has got a particular perspective and a purpose, and has got a particular content. For example, if you look at governance and management, you can pick up COBIT. If you are interested in security, you can look at ISO 27001. If you look at service management, there is the ITIL. So if you look at documentation, then you have ISO 9000. If you look at project management, there is a PMBOK. Like that, if you look at some capability management, there is a CMM level. Like that, there are different frameworks. So depending on the need, I think you can pick up that particular information. So if you have read the study material of the DISA course, chapter 2, you will find there are frameworks and there are a list of frameworks which are given. That's what you need to study for the DISA course. And that's what we thought we should start practicing as a chartered accountant.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to take a minute before we go to dinner for a couple of things. One is I want to thank all the members of the panel for their time and for sharing their insights. I also want to thank everybody in the audience for tolerating us, for being patient, and for tolerating the smells of dinner that are coming from behind you. We will take a couple of more minutes to do two things. One is we have a small set of gifts that we want to have, mementos that we want to hand over to our panel. And we'll also give the panel a minute to decide on which is the best question so that we can also hand over a memento to one of you, right? Just bear with us.
Okay, just add this disclaimer. See, all the questions are good. This is just selecting one. It is on the option. If you had the option, probably would have given prizes to everybody. We just selected this one. Again, some understanding.
Last name is Abhijit.
As Mr. Raghu was mentioning, I also don't want to take too much of your time. So I just want to do a little bit of honors on behalf of Bangalore, Visakha Bangalore chapter, to all the panelists for being here. And before that, I just also want to thank each one of you for making this program a very successful one. The hall is completely full, and we are really, really, very happy. Especially being, a weekend and a long weekend and still taking a time out. And it only shows how much the chapter is actually, encouraging its people and the interest that is coming up in COBIT as such. So before we close, I would like to call upon Natarajan to come forward, give a small memento to Mr. Rafi. I call upon Mr. Shashi to please come along, give a small memento. I call upon Mr. Prakash, please come along. Give a small memento to Mr. Mahendra. I call upon Mr. Sarath. Sarath Singh to come along and give a small memento to Mr. Babu. Yeah. So now we have had food for brains, now we'll have food for our stomach. So thank you so much.
Please, wherever I can help. Comes to taking it. Please. That is very strong. Now we